You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowicz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director of the cathedral. We are live streaming. We are physically distancing. We are wearing our masks, even though we've both had our shots. So we're all covered there. How's your weekend, Mark?
It was very nice. Very nice. Very much a continuing celebration of my wife's birthday.
Your 39th birthday.
39th. And
you have your 40th wedding anniversary coming up in August.
You know, we went out just for dinner. There's a great restaurant. Here's a little commercial.
Sure.
It's called the Half Shell on Diversey. We ate outside, distanced, but beautiful. It's a great home-style seafood restaurant.
Diversey and what?
Diversey and Orchard.
Okay, so a little shout out there.
That's my old neighborhood.
Oh, okay, and beautiful weather.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was stunning.
Both days, like it was 85 or 87 degrees, which was magnificent. But now it's supposed to be about 70 today, some rain, and then getting colder. But the month of May can be like April, very volatile, warm, cold.
Don't they say when you're in Chicago, stick around, you'll see kind of 4 seasons in one day sometimes?
That's exactly right. You and I are both been Chicago raised, so we have a great program lined up. Our old friend, Dr. Edward Gordon, backed by popular demand, will give us an update on where things stand with COVID-19, the pandemic. Dr. Edward Gordon, welcome to the program again. How are you, Edward?
Yeah, and I just helped celebrate my brother-in-law's 75th birthday yesterday.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, now where does he live?
He lives in Lockport.
And he's 75.
He just turned, he turned 75 on the 5th of May.
Wonderful.
Which happens to be Wednesday.
Right.
Edward, he's a youngster.
Cinco de Mayo.
That's right, Cinco de Mayo.
And I just came back from California where it was 100 degrees. So don't complain about the low 50-degree weather. I think I prefer it than 100. Right?
Now, was it actually in California, the part you were in, it hit 100? It's right,
Yes.
Because you were in the desert area.
Yes, yes.
How did you feel traveling?
Fine.
Yeah.
It was perfectly safe, and I had no problems.
Wonderful.
Now, Edward, the very first time we talked about the topic of the coronavirus, it was probably late April in 2020.
Yes.
And we asked the question, if this were a baseball game, the whole pandemic, what inning would it be in? And you said the top of the third.
Right.
You were on as a guest several times. We asked you maybe last November, around Thanksgiving, what inning are we in for the pandemic? You said probably around the top of the 5th or the 6th. Now, on May 3rd, 2021, what inning are we in right now regarding the pandemic?
How about the bottom of the 7th?
Okay, bottom of the 7th.
Okay. I mean, I have good news for your listeners, and I have cautionary news as well. I mean,
give us the good news first.
The good news, right. Well, over the last 7 days, the number of new cases in the U.S. fell by over 26%, and the number of deaths fell by over 7%. That's very good news.
Mm-hmm.
And the positivity rate declined from 5.1 to 4.7% for the city of Chicago.
Okay.
Right? So that's all.
What was
very
the
good
high in Chicago? Was it like once it hit about 13.5?
I can't give you that exact number, but it was very high. And one of the reasons I went out to California is for a while where I was, and still even now, California has a lower rate than the Chicago area in the state of Illinois.
And one time it was actually much higher.
Yes, much higher.
Now give us the cautionary news.
Well, the cautionary news is this. If you've been vaccinated or are planning to get vaccinated, I want to congratulate you for your intelligence. If you still feel that being vaccinated is not for you because of information that you've heard from various sources, unless your doctor has told you that you have a medical condition, you shouldn't be vaccinated yet, I want to tell you to drop it and get vaccinated.
Why?
Because right now, we hear about herd immunity. We need herd immunity. Well, right now we have a substantial number of Americans who still say they're not going to get vaccinated. Now, that number probably will decline over the next 2 months. But to have real herd immunity, we're now talking about 90% of all Americans being vaccinated. Well, why is that? Well, let's say you live in a city where most of the people, where 95% of the people have been vaccinated. But outside of it is a small town where only 70% of the people have been vaccinated. COVID will go there and kill them. So the message is we need to get people vaccinated. Even though the pace of vaccinations now is slowing down, we need to get everyone vaccinated, including children. And we also need to not pay attention to the ridiculous rumors, suggestions, the pure propaganda that is spewing forth from unvalidated sources here and overseas about these vaccines.
Now, we had brunch yesterday with my sister, my younger sister. My youngest sister is in Arizona, and we were talking about a vaccine. So you need to do some coaching for me, because my sister said, my younger sister and her husband decided, well, they just have a gut feeling that they're not getting the vaccination. She works in an assisted living as a chef. He works in a nursing home as an attendant.
And they have not had the shots?
And they've not had the shots. So coach me on how can I convince them?
They are putting at grave risk older people by not getting these shots, because they are a potential source of death for the people in those assisted living and those retirement facilities. There are crazy rumors. There's a school in Florida right now where the owner of the school is telling the children that if they embrace their parents or grandparents who have been vaccinated, that they may themselves weaken the vaccine of the parent, or they themselves may get infected by vaccine shedding. That is nothing but a lie.
Now, that one I haven't heard yet.
Really tired. Mm-hmm. I'm really tired of people confusing themselves between expert scientific opinion that we should be listening to from around the world, whether it's Dr. Fauci or other people around the world who tell us the truth, versus harebrained propaganda that is spewed forth by individuals who simply are not qualified. I mean, there's a nun in Spain who's telling people, well, she has some medical background, and she's telling people not to get vaccinated. Based on what? Based on her subjective interpretation of information. Is she an expert? No.
Good point.
I'm tired of the politics that have inundated this whole issue.
Now, Ed, let's do this.
We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Yeah, let's take a little break, and we'll talk about it when we come back. WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. Dr. Ed Gordon will be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Mothers are often the unsung heroes in a family. Right now, many mothers are also the disproportionate victims of the COVID-19 pandemic. They've experienced higher rates of infection and more job losses. They've had to navigate their children learning remotely while caring for older relatives and struggling to put food on the table. What better way to honor the mothers in our lives, those living and deceased, than with a contribution in your mother's name to Catholic Charities' 2021 Mother's Day Appeal? Our mothers were the first to teach us about compassion and community. They were the first to show us what love and caring for someone else is all about. Help us help local moms and children who are struggling this year. Please give generously at CatholicCharities.net.
Hey, it's Timothy Johnston here from Liturgy Training Publications. Over the past few months, I'm sure you've found yourself at home more, whether it's working from home or watching live stream masses on Sunday mornings. As we began adjusting to this at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the things I missed the most was gathering with friends at the parish. That's why we at LTP have created this new virtual gathering series called Living the Sunday Word. We meet virtually on Thursday evenings each week and reflect on the upcoming Sunday readings. And with that, we share stories to help us more fully reflect on the Word of God. I'm inviting each of you to join us, a group of friends meeting virtually from all parts of the country. So visit ltp.org for more information and to register. You won't want to miss this.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship program provides a free opportunity for youth living in Lake County to spend time, virtually, with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youths age 9 to 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends and role models who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports each relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that is totally different from remote learning. Virtual group sessions help youth enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today. To learn more, call 312-937-3375. That's 312-937-3375.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408. We're talking to our old friend, Dr. Ed Gordon, who's giving us an update on things as they stand with the COVID-19 pandemic. Father Greg, you had a question.
Edward, before the break, you were talking about it frustrates you, it frustrates all of us why people will not get the vaccination, the shot, or the shots. The question I have is, in years past, when there's been, the polio outbreak, tuberculosis, and people were told, get the shot, get the immunization, there was no question. Why is the COVID-19 vaccination so wrapped up with other issues that it wasn't this way in the past? Is my question making sense?
Yes, it is, because I think in this particular case, what we see now is the politicization of this question, and also the raising of the issue that experts, scientists, people like myself who analyze the information coming in from all over the world as a social scientist, that's what I am, that what we're saying to them is the truth. It is very important in this issue and in all issues pertaining to what's going on in the world, that you look at the source of the information that is telling you what to do or what to think.
Now, Ed,
and you also need to take a look at the data that is coming out from all around the world, not just from the United States.
Now, Ed, the pandemic, 1918, around those years, Was that a politicized event, or was that?
No, it wasn't, because World War I was still going on, and the governments really were playing down the Spanish flu and concentrating on winning the war. But there were still anti-mask leagues in major American cities. There were still people saying, you can't tell me to wear a mask. You can't tell me to socially distance. You can't tell me not to go to work. Of course, I just saw a cartoon about this with people saying, you can't tell them to do anything. And then the last piece of the cartoon is, but you can admit me to the ER when I get sick.
Yeah. Okay, but then what you're saying there, Edward, take the Spanish flu of 1918, 1919.
Yes.
Then what caused the pandemic of now to become politicized? I mean, it just didn't happen that way.
No, I think that certain individuals decided to make political hay out of it and used it as a platform to gain support from different groups within the population by tying it to the idea of individual rights.
Okay.
That you have a right to say no. Hey, you have the right, when you get in your car, to go through red lights. You have the right to go 100 miles an hour down the Kennedy Expressway. Now, if right now I ask the people who are listening to this broadcast, if right now you had, I told you that 575,000 Americans died on U.S. highways in the last 12 months, there would be such an outrage. There would be such a cry that government is not protecting the average citizen from death, that it would be resounding across this country. But in this case, because it is something that is unseen, you can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Literally, you can't smell, right? People think, well, if it doesn't affect me personally, or my family, or my friends, it doesn't exist.
Now, Ed, what about the impact of social media during this pandemic? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that a great deal of misinformation has been spread across all forms of media and hysteria regarding these issues. And people tend to glom on to headlines and not dig deeper into the news to find out what the truth is. Such as, we now know that the current vaccines are very resilient against some of these variants that have come from Britain, South Africa, etc. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So that the number of people that have bad reactions to vaccines is extremely, extremely minuscule. All right? So when you read of some of the doubters and what is spread, particularly on social media, but also in some of the more traditional press, again, you have to dig deeper rather than looking at one source of information. I always tell people, look, if you're a Republican, read a liberal newspaper. If you're a Democrat, read a conservative newspaper. Get both sides of the story, then make up your mind.
Exactly. We're going to take a little break.
Good point.
That's a great idea, a great approach. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago. 312-255-8408. We're talking to Dr. Ed Gordon. When we come back, maybe in our last segment, Ed, I don't want you to be a soothsayer or predictor, but even some of what we may have to look forward to depending on how these numbers are trending.
Right.
So, okay, we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Throughout our nation and our world, people of all faiths have recently been joining fervently in all kinds of prayer. They have found that coming together in prayer is a source of comfort and strength. In this spirit of unity, the Archdiocese of Chicago has introduced a call to prayer, a telephone line dedicated to prayer. If you would like to join with another person in prayer, call 312-741-3388. This line is staffed from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily with parishioners from across the Archdiocese of Chicago. These volunteers are here to listen to you, offer support, and pray with you. A call to prayer includes a 24-hour voicemail and email options as well. Experience this wonderful opportunity to join with people just like you who trust in the power of prayer. That phone number again is 312-741-3388. Let's pray together today.
Hello, I'm Cardinal Blaise Supich. I got my COVID-19 vaccination, and you should too. It took just a few seconds and was painless. The Food and Drug Administration determined the new vaccines are safe and effective, and the Holy See, as well as the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, has concluded getting the COVID-19 vaccine is an act of love of our neighbor and part of our moral responsibility for the common good. We have lived with the pandemic for many months, and I know we're all getting tired of it. Vaccination is one of the most important ways you can protect your health and the lives of those you love and help bring the pandemic under control. When it is your turn, I urge you to be vaccinated. And remember to do your part by wearing a mask, washing your hands, and watching your distance. Thank you, and God bless you all.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408. We're speaking with our old friend, Dr. Ed Gordon. He's giving us COVID updates. Father Greg, you had a question.
Yeah, before we get into Mark's questions or comments about being a prognosticator, what's going on, Edward, in India?
Well, India had a very low number of people sick in the first wave, and they took some precautions, and then they removed them. Mm-hmm. And now what they are facing, of course, is a huge epidemic, and they are short of vaccine. And they're going to remain short of vaccine for some time to come. So what we're going to see in India is devastating numbers. We just had 400,000 new cases reported yesterday, and the death rate is climbing, and less than 2% of India's population has now been vaccinated, and they're running out of vaccine. All right?
Whoa! Now, what's the population in the United States for having been vaccinated? What's the number?
Right now, about half of the population of the United States has received at least one shot.
Okay.
Okay. Now, but coming back to Mark's question, you just heard what the Cardinal said on the break in your commercial. Eradication of COVID is impossible. It's not going to happen. But what we want is local elimination. So the end point is persuading as many people to get a shot as possible. So when we reach a high level of immunization in our population, it's not like winning a race. You're going to have to continue to feed that. You have to keep vaccinating to stay above that threshold. So when you see India, will there be variants coming out of India? Yes. And if we do not get the world vaccinated over the next year or two, could a variant spread and make a nightmare that indeed breaks through the vaccines? Yeah, it is a possibility. unless we get everyone vaccinated.
Now, I had my question, well, there's two parts to it.
Yes.
The first part is when we look at Holy Name Cathedral and we look at the parish,
Yes.
we look at more than a year ago, year plus,
Right.
you know, we had a gala 400, we had a Christmas concert, 1,000 people, we had our Christmas holidays filled, Thanksgiving, everybody was around the table, not this year. What are your thoughts about, as we look ahead, how do we plan? How do you plan?
Well, again, it depends on the numbers. What are the numbers of people infected in Chicago and in Illinois? And how many people are dying, and how many people are admitted to the hospital? Based on those numbers, if they continue to improve, what we'll see is that more people will be able to go into Holy Name Cathedral with a mask on, and more people will be able to attend small gatherings and parties, and that will gradually increase.
Now, here's a
if the numbers go the other direction, that is not going to happen.
Here's a very practical, selfish question.
Mm-hmm.
For our 25th anniversary, we were supposed to go to Ireland. We bought windows in the house instead, and now we're celebrating our 40th, and we're talking about going to Ireland.
When?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Well, I just was with a group the other day, and a member of that family is planning a destination wedding in Italy for September.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Now, unless they have a very tiny group of people
No, we're not talking about Italy. Is Italy closed off right now?
Parts of it, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And people have asked me, should I get a card proving that I've been vaccinated? I have both vaccines. Yes, do that. You may need it.
Father Greg said to me, if we were going to Ireland, I could have 3 days off and would include the weekend.
I would say if you're going to go to Ireland, I would say next year would probably be the best time to go.
Okay, good.
What about a day trip? What a day trip to Wisconsin?
And in terms of when to go in Ireland, remember it rains every day.
Yes, exactly.
No matter when it is.
we need to bring this segment to a close.
The other thing you have to look at realistically is what's happening in Ireland.
Right, exactly.
All right?
Exactly.
Because, again, I say to you, if Chicago has a very low number of people getting sick, and most of them have gotten the vaccine, and yet outside Chicago in southern Illinois or western Illinois or one suburb, there are a lot of people who just won't get vaccinated. The virus will hit them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, will they travel downtown for brunch? Will they come to Holy Name Cathedral? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
That's a good point.
Okay. We're all in this together, folks.
Yes.
This is a war. This is the plague. This is deadly. We will top over 600,000 dead in this country. We're approaching the number of people who died in the U.S. Civil War.
Mm.
And most of those people died from illness because, farm boys and city boys mixed together. They got mumps, measles, and they died from it because there was no immunization.
Exactly.
And that's what we're dealing with here. This is a new bug. You need to get vaccinated. Will you need next year or even this fall a booster shot to keep that going? Probably. Will COVID-19 be with us for a long time around the world? Yes. But the idea is the more people that are vaccinated and are immune, the smaller number, the seriousness of this illness. Like the flu. People die from the flu every year. We have vaccines for that. The numbers of people will be smaller and will not overwhelm healthcare systems. And, if you're anti-vaccine and you don't think your kid needs any vaccines, you're in trouble.
On that note, we need to bring the segment to a close. I want to thank in a very special way our old friend, Dr. Edward Gordon, speaking about the COVID-19 pandemic. Edward, again, you were terrific. You'll be back on soon.
Thank
in
you
our
so much.
Lane.
Right.
You're listening to
Well, let's hope we got better news.
Catholic Chicago, WNDZ 750 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi. Stay with us and do not touch that dial.
cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
Catholic Charities Schreiber Center for Human Services is now open in Round Lake. Due to the pandemic, we are limited in the number of in-person programs that we currently can provide. However, a food pantry is open twice a week, and a Wednesday night supper is held with to-go meals every week. A wide range of senior services are now offered as well. If we can assist you or someone you know, please call us at 847-546-5733. That's 847-546-5733. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. The time is 8:33 on this at least rainy morning in Chicago. Coming off a beautiful weekend. Today's high about 70 degrees. Over the weekend, it was yesterday. Cubs lost. White Sox lost. There's your sports update. We have a tremendous second half of the program lined up. Our first guest in studio, we are live streaming. So you can see, for those that are live streaming, Father Luke Cameli, the Cardinals delegate for Formation and Mission, with us in studio. The last time we had a guest during pandemic was Father Luke Cameli, about 6-7 months ago.
Right, that's right.
We've done nothing but have guests via phone. So this is great to have you. And Lou is a Cardinals theologian. And he lives at Holy Name Cathedral as a resident, but doing so much work at the cathedral and with Cardinal Supich. Lou, welcome to the program this morning. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Greg and Mark. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful.
I mean, it's hopefully this is a sign that we're kind of getting back to something a little bit more normal.
But now, since the last time you were here, we've now live streamed the program, which is a great work of Michael and Brian and Javi and the whole team. It's just a tremendous resource in technology to have what we're doing now. So now the month of May is known as Mary's Month, the Blessed Virgin Mary. So I guess the question that we'll kind of kick off is, why is Mary such an important person in our Catholic tradition?
Yeah, I mean that's a big question, and I've written a lot about it, in different ways. But let me just try to pull it together in a kind of simple perspective. Mary is, of course, the mother of Jesus. And probably one of the most important things about the fact that she's the mother of Jesus is that when you see these pictures of her, statues of her holding the child, you begin to realize that Jesus is a real person. He's not an idea, not an abstraction. In fact, the theologian Karl Rahner once said, she's essential for us in our faith to make sure that Jesus is not an abstraction because abstractions don't have mothers. You see, so that's kind of the...
that's a great point.
Yeah, really, it's extraordinary. And the other thing that makes her so important is that she is not only is she the mother of Jesus, but St. Augustine says it's even more important that she's the first disciple of Jesus. And that in that sense, she shows us a path of following Jesus.
She spent her life.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have, sometimes you hear people say, well, you know, Catholics, they have this devotion to Mary, but it seems to take away from real relationship with Jesus. On the contrary, if it's real, genuine devotion to Mary, it's always going to lead to Jesus.
It goes beyond Mary.
Yeah, exactly.
When we were in Mexico adopting our daughters, we ran into a woman who had helped build a town. She built an infirmary. And she said she had a terrible accident, and she had said to us, you know, Our Lady came to me and said, take care of my children. Now, how do you explain that? Because this wonderful work came after that. But how do you explain, you know, Mary's presence in our lives?
Well, I mean, we believe in the communion of saints. In other words, the church is the church that we experience here on earth, and we right now the three of us are together, and that's in a certain sense that's an experience of church, wherever two or three are gathered. But beyond that, we're part of a much larger reality of the communion of saints. So within that, now, I think sometimes people get very much fixated on apparitions. You know, she appears or that. Okay, what's more important is the word that you used. More important than appearing is that she's present to people, and present in different ways. I think, you know, we know from our relationships with each other, with for people who are dear to us, who've died and gone ahead of us, we know that there's a different way of being present to each other. It's real. And I would guess that this woman had a genuine experience of the presence of Mary, that word of reassurance, that kind of encouragement to do good work. And the proof of that, if you will, or the verification of it, is in the work itself.
Yes.
You know,
Look what came out of it.
Exactly. By their fruits you shall know them. That's what Jesus said. So that's a basic element of discernment.
On that note, Mark, take us to break.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're speaking with Father Luke Cameli. We're going to continue our conversation on Mary present in our lives. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities After Supper Visions program offers guests of our Tuesday night supper the opportunity to learn the art of photography. These talented guests, who are often experiencing homelessness, are offered disposable digital cameras, and they work with volunteer professional photographers to learn the basics of taking photos. Then the artists go out and capture images on film of anything they find to be beautiful or interesting in the world. Their photos are amazing. Visit AfterSupperVisions.com to learn more about the artists and their artwork. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn too. At After Supper Visions, we are developing film, talent, and hope.
The Word Made Clear is exactly what its name implies. It's an easy-to-understand explanation of the Word of God, the Gospel. Hello, I'm Father James McElhone, Director of Biblical Formation for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I'd like to invite you to take our free online Bible study program by going to thewordmadeclear.org. Our website offers an audio-based guide to the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Listen to my lectures and follow along with the handouts provided. There are even discussion guides. You can also explore the biblical roots of the Mass. And there are links to a wide variety of biblical sources that will benefit both teachers and students of the sacred scriptures. Just go to wordmadeclear.org to experience our free online Bible study program. Again, it's free at wordmadeclear.org. It's the Word of God. Enjoy.
Mothers are often the unsung heroes in a family. Right now, many mothers are also the disproportionate victims of the COVID-19 pandemic. They've experienced higher rates of infection and more job losses. They've had to navigate their children learning remotely while caring for older relatives and struggling to put food on the table. What better way to honor the mothers in our lives, those living and deceased, than with a contribution in your mother's name to Catholic Charities' 2021 Mother's Day Appeal? Our mothers were the first to teach us about compassion and community. They were the first to show us what love and caring for someone else is all about. Help us help local moms and children who are struggling this year. Please give generously at CatholicCharities.net.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408. We're speaking with Father Lou Cameli. We're speaking about Mary. Lou, some years back when I was at St. Zachary's, we had the statue, the Millennium statue, and we had folks, all the different nationalities would take a night and they would say the rosary in their native language. Tell us a little bit about the importance of internationally, the importance of the rosary.
Yeah. Well, the rosary is, I mean, it's, there's so many aspects to it. There's a kind of an emotional attachment, as we know from our grandparents and that. And I mean, one of the more interesting things for me is at the cathedral, recently I've been running into younger people, young adults, who say, you know, Father, my grandparents prayed the rosary. I don't know what this is about. Can you tell me about the rosary, you know?
Yes.
So there's an intuition that it's an important kind of prayer, and they want to engage it. So in any case, the rosary, a couple of ways of describing it and why it's so important. One of them goes back to Pope Pius XII, like around that time I was born in 1944. He described the rosary as the gospel in miniature. The gospel in miniature. In this sense,
that's a good description.
Yeah, it's a way of approaching all the basic movements of the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus in a prayer form, so that you circle around those mysteries, and you actually have, in a compressed way, a review and a deepening of the spirit of the whole gospel. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, and I think this is from Pope Francis, but I'm not absolutely positive. It's a beautiful image in any case. Speaking of the rosary as looking at Jesus through the eyes of Mary. Looking at Jesus through the eyes of Mary.
Well, that's a profound statement.
There really is. It's extraordinary, because when you have the eyes of a mother looking on her child, and as he's born, as he grows up, as he takes on the ministry, as he dies, as he rises, she's doing it with love and complete attention. So if we can get into that mode in that prayer, that's extraordinary. So those are a couple of reasons. It's really, really important.
Now, Lou, I need to ask this question. It's kind of a sidebar. When you were on a couple of years ago, you've been on many times, but you made the comment once, we were talking about the rosary, we were talking about scripture reading, talking about daily mass. If you can, I don't mean to put you on the spot. No. Do you remember the line you gave from some theologian? We talked about pray from where you are and not from where you're not. I mean, I'm mixing it up, but do you remember that line?
No, sure I do, absolutely, because it's been really important for me personally, but also when I'm doing spiritual direction with people. That the line is from, actually he was a Chicago priest, Passionist priest, Father Barnabas Mary Ahern.
Okay, Ahern.
And he was a scripture scholar and a spiritual theologian. And he said, pray as you can, not as you can't.
That's it.
Pray as you can, not as you can't. And the point of that was this. You know, each one of us has a different personality. and we're going to pray according to our personality. And for some people, that means like just speaking. I mean, you have a lot of extroverted people. We're going to talk. But then there are other people who don't need to use a lot of words. They can be silent, they can be attentive, they can be more meditative and all that. So his point was, don't try to force yourself because you think, oh, this is the best way to pray. Well, this is what I have to do.
The example you gave was in the radio was, because Grandma loved the rosary, maybe you won't.
Yeah, like
and it's not a put down.
No. And it may be that the rosary as a prayer form, first of all, praying with and to Mary and through her intercession to Jesus, of course, for everybody. But exactly how that's done, yeah. The person who had a great deal of difficulty with the rosary, a lot of difficulty with the rosary, was Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Wow.
She writes about that, yeah.
Why?
Well, it didn't fit the pattern of her personality. It didn't mesh real well. Did she pray? Absolutely. Was she devoted to the Blessed Mother? Completely. But and she did the rosary, but she found it really, really difficult.
And culturally, we're in a different spot now. I remember, you all know Bob Regali Sr., who passed away.
Sure.
He said when he on his first date with his wife, he came to the house, knocked on the old, the Irish family's door. The door opened. The dad said, "On your knees." They were praying the rosary after dinner.
Yeah.
And it culturally was part of who they were. I had one question related to the rosary that may be helpful for folks. Could you talk just a little bit about the luminous mysteries, those new mysteries?
Yeah, this is just wonderful. This is from Pope St. John Paul II. And it fills in a kind of gap. Remember I said it's the gospel in miniature. So you had we kind of jumped before from the joyful mysteries in infancy to the passion. And this brings us into the middle. It's the baptism of Jesus, the wedding feast at Cana, his preaching and miracles. It's his transfiguration and the institution of the Eucharist.
And the Pope felt that was a good way to complete the rosary.
See, the rosary is actually pretty new. I mean, in a certain sense, it has developed over 1,500 years.
Okay.
It started when people took the 150 Hail Marys, the people who couldn't pray the 150 Psalms, so used the rosary. And eventually, it's only in the last few hundred years.
So the rosary in your pocket, in my pocket right now.
As it is.
As it is the last couple hundred years.
Yeah.
Take us to break, Mark. And then how about sports for 500?
WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago. We're speaking with Father Luke Cameli, 312-255-8408. Maybe when we come back, talk a little bit about Mary and how she fits into cultures around the world.
Okay.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship program provides a free opportunity for youth living in Lake County to spend time, virtually, with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youths aged 9 to 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends and role models who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports each relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that is totally different from remote learning. Virtual group sessions help youth enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today. To learn more, call 312-937-3375. That's 312-937-3375.
Hello, I'm Cardinal Blaise Supich. I got my COVID-19 vaccination, and you should too. It took just a few seconds and was painless. The Food and Drug Administration determined the new vaccines are safe and effective, and the Holy See, as well as the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, has concluded getting the COVID-19 vaccine is an act of love of our neighbor and part of our moral responsibility for the common good. We have lived with the pandemic for many months, and I know we're all getting tired of it. Vaccination is one of the most important ways you can protect your health and the lives of those you love and help bring the pandemic under control. When it is your turn, I urge you to be vaccinated. And remember to do your part by wearing a mask, washing your hands, and watching your distance. Thank you, and God bless you all.
We're back, WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're speaking with Father Lou Cameli.
And we are live streaming.
And we have masks on, but it's so nice to have Father Lou here
in person
in the studio. Hooray! Hooray! You know, we were talking during the break. It took a while, but there's a Mackesy Theological Resource Center at Mundelein. It took forever to figure out how to honor Mary there, and we ended up with a gentleman, I think Washington, D.C. He drew an icon of Mary with Jesus, and Jesus, they always look forward, but he was touching her face. And we had talked during the break. You said that, the Eastern Church has some different take on Mary, but it's connected to the reverence. Could you fill us in?
Yeah, for sure. For example, I mean, there are people in the Eastern Church who do pray the Rosary, as we talked about it. But there are a lot who do not. However, it's very important to realize that there is strong devotion to Mary in the Eastern churches, and it's expressed in a number of different ways. One of them is through icons. I'll talk a little bit about that because it's important to me. And another is this great hymn called the Akathistos, which is a Greek word for meaning the standing hymn. And because people stand during this hymn that goes through and describes Mary in relationship to Jesus, and it's just spectacular kind of thing. So that becomes a kind of extended prayer and meditation. So the Eastern Church is devoted to Mary, but it has its own modes of expressing that devotion. The icon, I wanted. This is a personal thing, but I've got a prayer space in my room. And in that prayer space, I have two Russian icons. I got them in Rome and brought them back. The first one is, Mark, kind of like the icon you described. It's a mother and child. So Mary is holding the child, and it's a tender kind of representation of the child putting his hand on her cheek and all that, but she's holding him. The other icon is an icon of Mary's dormition, her falling asleep. And she's laid out, and the apostles are kind of weeping around that. But above is Jesus as glorified Lord holding Mary, who's represented in a kind of as a small figure wrapped in white. Now, when you sit between these two icons, you realize this is the mystery, the full mystery. The first one is the mystery of the Incarnation, Mary holding the child. And the second, the dormition of Mary, was the child holding the mother. That's the redemption. He brings her to himself, Assumption,
Beautiful.
And she fully shares
It
in
completes the
his.
circle.
It completes the circle. So for me, praying between these icons is really, really important.
Now, between the icons and the rosary, over the centuries, so many titles
Yeah.
about Mary appear. Lou, why?
Well, that's a really good question and observation, because you have Our Lady of Guadalupe, of course, is very present here in the Hispanic community, especially Mexican. But there are other.
There's many titles.
Yeah, Our Lady of Częstochowa for Polish, and you just keep going around and around, and sometimes you can kind of get dizzy with all these titles. But what it says is that she is a person in our faith tradition who has universal value, but it's expressed in particular ways. Each culture, each group can claim her and recognize in her a way into the mystery of Christ.
And it also helps cultures stay together.
Exactly, yeah.
And not to stand alone, but it supports who they happen to be.
Who they are, exactly.
And let's not forget, mission of Our Lady of Mercy.
Yeah.
People call it Mercy Mission, but it's the mission of Our Lady of Mercy, which means all that movement is dedicated to her and asking for her help in caring for these homeless kids.
Exactly. Because she expresses a kind of compassion. It's already in...
A motherly love.
Yeah, it's compassion already evident in the Gospels. When she is at Cana, she says they have no wine. Or when she's at the cross, completely connected with the suffering of her son.
And she's a strong lady. I remember when we were at Cana, the priest said to us, the miracle there was Mary crossed the line to get to Jesus, to tell him there was a need there. And I never
that's
thought
when I was
of
a
that.
child. I thought Mary's being meek and humble, which she's very humble and very meek. However, a woman, strong, of deep faith. We need to bring the program to a close. I want to thank in a very special way Father Lou Cameli, the Cardinal's delegate for formation and mission. Lou, it's been an honor to have you with us, to be back again.
Thank
you. It was great to have in studio a guest. And special thanks also to our co-host, Mark Teresi, to our producers and engineers, Michael May, Javi Garcia, Brian Brock, to all. May God bless you. Have a blessed week. May is the month of Mary. Devotion in so many different ways. Bring it forth. God bless. Great week.
And St. Mary of the Lake.
Pray for us.
Pray for us. Yep.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.